Hello, everybody. As you join in, please tap your screen, share out the live, do all the good things. I am getting things set up over here on the YouTube, and I started it before I should have. Hello, YouTube. I don't know what you're looking at right now, but it's not the right thing. I'm getting you there. Hang on one second. We should be ready, YouTube. Okay. Hey, Sarah, how are you? Come on in. Oop. There we go. Thank you, Shelly Belly. Appreciate you.
Hi.
Oh, you know what? I do this all the time. Hang on one second. I forgot to switch my Bluetooth over to my phone. Now talk to me.
Hello.
Okay, it's still not. Let's make sure I do one more thing. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I don't think it would really be my show if I didn't have technical difficulties. I think that my technology experts are saying I need to turn on my headphones.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. Okay, you guys, as you come in, tap the screen, share out the live. I do have a gift goal today of the little teddy bears or whatever, the little jelly belly bears. And don't forget to send some love to Sarah. Sarah, have you seen the show at all before?
I have scrolled through it. I haven't sat and watched it.
Okay. All right. I have a very simple format. I am going to ask you 10 icebreaker questions, just some fun questions. And then we will invite people to come up and ask you questions. Sometimes they're shy to come up, and I'll just read their questions in the comments. I'm on YouTube, so if people ask over on YouTube, I will. I don't have like Video Ninja or anything set up over on YouTube right now, but I can read their questions to you. And then at the end, we like to play a game that everybody loves. It's called Divine or Decline, and hopefully we'll get some people to come up and join you up on the panel and play along with us. So good morning, Shelly. Good morning, Brandy. Good morning, Joel. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being here. Make sure you're tapping the screen, sharing out the live, and we will get started with icebreaker questions.
Woohoo!
While people join us, I'm going to have a sip of coffee real quick first.
Oh, yeah, girl. I have coffee with me, too. Well, I made it too hot, so I really want to drink it, but it's too hot, and I can't.
I'm having iced coffee. It's Southern California, so we get hot already.
That's fair.
All right. Where are we? We need the questions. Okay. All right. Would you rather have a dog that talks or a bunny that grants one wish a year?
Oh. I'm going to say a bunny that grants one wish a year.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. You could say, let the dog talk.
Yeah, that could be one of my wishes. I can have both.
Yeah, you go, I got a wish and my dog talks. One time I had learned that if a person has an eyelash that you could see like fell off, you like pick up the eyelash for them and then you squeeze it between your fingers and then you tell them to make a wish and they have to guess whether it's on the top or the bottom. And so I went up to Doug and I go, Doug's my husband, by the way. I go, top or bottom? And he goes, oh, I don't know, top. And I go, like this, and I go, oh, it's the top. What did you wish for? He goes, that it would be on top. I'm like, brilliant, honey, brilliant.
You wish for simple things and they come true.
I know, it's true. Well, I too would pick the bunny because, like, who wouldn't want to have a wish every year? That would just be awesome. So, what's something small that instantly makes your day better no matter what?
Oh, um, really nice weather, like when the sun is out and there's a light breeze, and it's warm. It's harder to have a bad day.
Oh, for sure. Okay. Anytime anyone brings me a cup of coffee,
Nice.
if I don't have to go get it, and this is a very rare thing for me, for anyone to ever bring me coffee. That is why it is like so amazing to me if people do it. I'm like, what? I will even drink the shittiest cup of coffee if you're bringing it to me, because like, I'm like, dang, they brought it to me, you know? But yeah, if you bring me a cup of coffee, oof, that's going to make my day. If you had to pick one personality trait dogs have that humans should adopt, what would it be?
Joy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I love that dogs kind of see the best in everyone and they're so excited to see people. They're non-judgmental. Joy, for sure.
Yeah, that is a really good one. Hey, Eli, I like that. I also like how they can almost always instantaneously put on a playful spirit. Like if you know, your dog can just be sitting, well, at least my dog right now, he could just be sitting there, and if I go, you know, he'll just be like, oh, we're going to play? This is awesome, you know?
Wait, let me show you. Ruby is the one dog who is like rarely playful. She's so serious. Wait, hi.
Oh, you're big now.
Okay, so here's Ruby snoozing
Hi,
behind the couch.
Ruby.
Rubes, do you want to play? Do you want to go outside? Nope, I just want to snooze.
So cute. Oh my goodness.
Like she just sits there. She is not at all like, oh man, she is like the most chill dog I've ever had.
So cute. Okay, let's see. What's a belief or value you grew up with that you've had to rethink as an adult, other than like being a Christian? Because you know, like, that's a given.
That's a given. It's sort of related, but I think the big one is that like we are all terrible people. You know, like I grew up believing that humans were inherently bad and evil. And every time that we made a mistake or messed up, like that was just evidence of how evil we were. And like kind of taught to discount all the good we do. So I really had to unlearn that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've had so much that I've had to unlearn because, well, you know, I'm Gen X and grew up in a Christian household. So with Christianity, even though some of the things that are instilled in you don't actually have to do with the religion, but you grow up believing them because you are in that religion, you know, like some of the bigotry and stuff like that. I was talking about this yesterday, I think, but one of the things was, and I think a lot of Christians do this, is believing that I'm not a bigot about something because I don't hate that something.
Oh,
like,
interesting. Okay.
I think that people misconstrue the fact that you don't have to hate somebody or something and you are still being a bigot because of your internal thoughts about things based on stereotypes and so forth. Like, for instance, I was explaining that I thought since I didn't hate trans people, that meant I was not transphobic. But the reality was, and I use this as an example. I don't really remember this particular thing happening. I just remember thinking things similar, like, going, I know one that I really didn't get. And I thought that I would totally judge somebody who had a beard and wore makeup.
Wow.
Like, I would think that, okay, that's not trans. That's just being like weird or something like that. Like, I would think something very bigoted in my head, but I don't hate them.
Right.
So I'm not a bigot,
Yeah.
and I think learning that that's not true, that you don't have to actually hate somebody, and you can still have to deconstruct your bigoted beliefs,
Yeah, definitely.
Would you rather only be able to whisper, and I actually think I know how you're going to answer this, or only be able to shout for the rest of your life?
Whisper.
Me too. I don't want to go around shouting all the time. And I figure people will learn that I can't talk very loud, and they'll be quieter and listen to me, Actually, I learned as a parent, too far along as a parent. I wish I had learned this earlier on, that when your children are really upset, where they're like yelling, bring your level of voice down very quiet, because they will quiet down so they can hear you. And you just keep telling them very calmly, like, I'm sorry, I can't really hear you when you're yelling. I can't hear you. And just talk very quiet while you're saying it. And then eventually they start, calming down. And it really did work. I wish I had learned it on my first job, not my third.
It reminds me of several episodes of 30 Rock. Did you ever watch 30 Rock?
Yes.
Like Donaghy's power, quiet talking, or
yes,
right? Like,
yes, absolutely. Okay, if you were reincarnated as a bunny, what kind of life would you want? Wild in nature or spoiled as a house pet?
Oh my gosh, house pet. Immediately
really?
House pet. Well, so there's a lot of wild bunnies where I live. And while they do seem to have it looks like they have a good life, the reason I don't ever bring Checkers outside anymore, I used to, but I would put her in this little cage in my front yard so she could hop around in the grass. But every time I did it, several hawks would come and sit in the trees. Like one time I had to defend her from a hawk that was like swooping down and terrifying. So at least if you are a pet bunny, like you don't have to worry about being eaten by a hawk.
I agree. I live in Southern California, and in my neighborhood we have coyotes and hawks and owls. So I would definitely want to be an indoor pampered little bunny. They are. I just picture bunnies being pampered. I don't know why. But because cats pretend like they're pampered. They're not. Like, we're not even allowed to pay attention to them unless they request it or require it, But bunnies, I picture you actually pampering them. Okay, let's see. What's one harmless hill you're willing to die on? Like, cereal is better dry.
Oh man, that's hard to think of. Oh, I know. Matching your socks doesn't matter.
Oh, I agree. It doesn't matter.
I would just grab 2 random socks. It doesn't matter. There's socks on my feet. I don't care what color they are. I don't even care if they're the same length. They're just socks.
There you go. I really like that. Okay. Okay. I had to check to see if I did it myself today. Coffee tastes better out of glass than ceramic. It just does. Somebody told me that many, many years ago, and so I randomly had to go home and do science, and see if it was.
Totally.
And she was right. I was like, I don't know how to explain it other than, you know how like if you drink certain things out of aluminum or something, it's not. It just changes the overall flavor. Not like it tastes like aluminum or anything, but
No, it does.
yeah,
I agree. Yeah,
yeah.
it definitely changes the flavor.
So once you taste, oh, I have a little flash goal. I'm going to start a flash goal, you guys. If you can help me complete this, for some reason always boosts me up. But I know you might have given me a heart me already. But if you haven't, drop me a heart me. Yeah, she told me that, and I went home and I tried. Like, okay, let's try, a ceramic mug and a glass mug, and I don't know, it tasted like cleaner or,
Interesting.
just
Yeah,
better.
I
Just
definitely
better.
noticed that with metal and coffee. Like, I don't like to take my coffee in a to go, like a, to go cup because they're
Yeah.
usually metal inside. And I agree, it totally messes with the taste of the coffee.
Yeah, it does for sure. Coffee beats them all. Okay, what? Pink. Okay. Would you rather forget your most embarrassing moment or be able to relive your happiest one anytime?
Oh, happiest one anytime.
Yeah, I think that's. Yep, I think so too. Because I've told people this before. I think that things embarrassing happen to me, but I'm not one of those people who relives it and like just feels mortified all over again. I usually relive it and I laugh at myself. I'm like, that's actually hilarious, Crystal. And I will tell people all my embarrassing stories because I want them to laugh at them too. This was hilarious. You have to see what I did today. I'm so dumb.
Oh, that is so healthy of you. I'm not quite that healthy about it.
I agree, Jill. Soda out of plastic can or glass bottle. Oh, I think that. Ooh, that's a hard one, Joel, because I used to think glass bottle, but recently somebody told me that the can a lot of times has like a little more carbonation, and so that's why it tastes a little better. I don't know, Joel. I don't know.
Nothing beats getting it right out of the fountain drink, like the cup,
Yeah.
straw, fresh soda.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, if your pet could tell the world one thing about you, and you could pick which pet, what do you think they'd say?
Oh, what? Let's see. Probably Ruby would say that I sit on the couch too much. She always sees me here, like sitting on the couch.
Yeah, George sleeps at the end of my bed, and he wants me to get up and feed him breakfast at like 6, and
Ooh.
I do not. I don't feed him that early. He gets fed about between 8 and 9. Once I've gotten up, made my coffee, and at least had a few sips, or when I'm making my coffee, I'll get it for him since I'm down in the kitchen making the coffee. But he will get up like 4 million times before I actually have to get up to like be like, is it now? Is it time now? So I think he would tell people she needs to get out of bed earlier on my breakfast at 6. I don't know what she's doing, but she needs to wake up. Okay, you guys, this is my final icebreaker question. If you would like to come up and ask Leavingfaith Sarah a question, come on up, put your request in the guest box, and we'll bring you up and ask you questions. If you're too shy to come up but you have a question, feel free to ask it in the comments and I'll be happy to read it out for her, and I'll be checking over on YouTube as well. What's one question you wish people asked you more often?
In this like TikTok space or just in life?
Just in life.
Oh man, that's a tough one. What do I wish people asked me? You know what? I wish people would ask me, like, do you need anything? Um, I usually don't get asked that, and I usually don't ever ask for anything, but I feel like if people ask, then I would say, actually, yeah, I do need help with this.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I think that by large, women don't ask for help enough because of so many things. One, just feeling that we have to prove ourselves to the patriarchy, so we have to be like, I don't need your damn help. I don't need no man. I don't need no man.
Do it all on my own. Fine.
That's right. And then because we grew up in a patriarchy, I feel anyway, that it teaches women at a very young age that all other women are their competition. Because we are nothing if we don't have a man. And so that girl is competing for your same man. I'm 5, Mom. Can I just go skip on the playground? You know what I mean? But because of that, I think that's why a lot of women are very competitive, with each other and what seems like almost no reason. You'll think, why is that girl like getting upset with me? Because, that's what we're taught at a very young age. So we're also like, no, I have to prove to other women, how tough I am too. And so, yeah, I think that we can be too competitive sometimes due to these horrific things the patriarchy brings upon us.
Yeah, and I think we're taught not to be a burden. Like, we are the ones who are supposed to take care of other people, and we are not supposed to.
That's true.
Be a burden to others.
That's true. Let's see. What would I want people to ask me? Why aren't you famous? No, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't know what I would have people ask me. I don't know. I like when people ask me advice. So I think that I would like people to ask me advice more. I like that. Joel says I get that all the time. I bet you do, though, Joel. I bet you do. Anyway, now the floor is open to you. Joel, come on up and ask Leavingfaith a question. Or if you are out there, I know there's only 14 of you right now. Keep tapping the screen, doing all the good things. I don't know. The algorithm takes a while for me to push out, but we'll get there. We got the 5,000 likes. I don't know how many shares we have, but if you guys could get the shares to over 100, that would be awesome.
I can also, let me share with my Discord. It'll make me disappear for just a second, but then I will, that might help get it out to more people. So just one.
All righty. And I've got a few. I needed to send that out too as well. Shelly Belly, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you today, Miss Crystal?
Doing good. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, you're welcome. Where'd Sarah go? Is she coming back?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm back. Hi.
Oh, hi. I didn't really have a question. Just wanted to really thank you for your platform and your lives. I know they're hard. They have to be hard for you to do because Christians seem to come in and try to take over the space and think they know us better than we know ourselves. So really, I just wanted to give an honest thank you and let you know that you're appreciated and just a really big part of the community. So just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I also have a checkers. So she's a rescue mutt. But yeah, I've never heard another name for anybody else having a checkers. So I just wanted to let you know I have a checkers too.
I love that.
Yeah, but I won't take up too much more time. I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you, of course, to you, Crystal, for having these Q&As so we can get to know the content creators. So you're much appreciated as well. Yeah.
We appreciate you. I love seeing you in the chats, and I love like you're always just a breath of fresh air. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for supporting us. Really appreciate
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. That just made my day. But y'all have a good rest of your day.
You too.
You too, Shelly.
All right.
Okay, so did you need help down, Shelly? I'll help you down. Okay, so I have listened to your deconstruction story a long time ago, but I do not remember, like, what was your Christianity like? What were you brought up in the faith? And if so, like, what denomination?
Yeah, so I was brought up Protestant. Probably you would call it evangelical. I grew up in a Presbyterian church, and it was the more conservative Presbyterian, so PCA, not PCUSA. And so
I didn't even know there was a difference. There's a difference, huh?
There is, yeah. PCUSA is a lot more liberal. Like, they are okay with women in leadership, for example.
Okay.
But PCA is, I mean, I think a lot of those stereotypes that, like, when you picture, conservative evangelicals, that's PCA.
Okay.
So that was the church that I grew up in, and kind of a lot of the classic stuff, like, the youth group with the purity culture and VBS and fearing the rapture and all those good things.
I used to use VBS as like basically daycare in the summer for my kids.
I totally get it.
I'm not even gonna lie. There was a VBS at a different church almost every week during the summer. And I was like, where else can I take my kids, get them away from me for a few hours during the day? Because, like, 3 kids home every day during summer is a lot. It's just a lot. I'm just telling you. And so I was like, this will be good. This will be safe. Okay, that's
totally. I mean, I understand, right? We all thought that at the time.
Yeah. So, and they loved it. I mean, to be honest with you, they grew up in a smaller town. Hey, Trisha. And so, I say smaller because I know some of you come from very small towns. Our town was 19,000. I know that's big to some people, but I grew up in Southern California, and that's very small compared to where I grew up for a town. And so no matter which VBS we took them to, they always knew people there. Like they, went to school with them or whatever. So, but yes, my poor children, one after another. Just all summer long, VBS. So to me, Presbyterian always seemed a lot more, how shall I put this, seasonless, like with no seasoning, like a Methodist church. Because I always tell people, if the Methodist church was on a cookie scale, like, where Pentecostal is a double stuffed Oreo because of all its, Methodist is a plain graham cracker cookie, not a s'mores or anything. It's just a plain graham cracker cookie.
I feel like we're called the Frozen Chosen, because we're like not seasoned at all. Just no fun, no gifts of the Spirit, nothing exciting.
Yeah.
Just very.
We didn't do that.
We don't even have liturgy. It's not even like high church where you get, the candles and the incense and the fun stuff. Like, nope, nothing fun.
No. Did you just sing from a hymn?
No, actually, it was. We did have like the worship band.
Oh, you're lucky. We had a hymn.
We were not. Yeah, we did not have hymnals. We had the heathen guitars.
Yeah, we didn't have the guitars, but a Methodist church closer to where I lived did. So as a teenager, I started going to there, and that was very rebellious of me to go to a different Methodist church.
Wild child.
I know. I was so wild. I was going there like 3 days a week. What a heathen for going to a different church. That was a very big turning point in my relationship with the church. My parents were like, I don't know what's wrong with our church. Well, you're all like 80. And you sing from a hymn. I'm just saying. Yep. I'm not into it. Okay, so then for those who haven't heard your deconstruction story, do you mind sharing it with us today?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So just a little more of like, I got to be really extreme with my beliefs. So, growing up, it was like I did all the normal kind of stereotypical youth group, then mission trips kind of stuff. And then when I was in college, I went on 2 separate international trips, and the people I met there and the experiences that we had were really charismatic, right? So now suddenly I'm seeing people like thought they were possessed by demons and prophecy and miracles and, all that stuff. And so as I finished college and then got into grad school, I really my faith became so extreme. Like I didn't want to do anything else or talk about anything else. I was reading, I set aside 2 hours every single day. Like my quiet time was 2 hours of reading and praying, and I used to fast twice a week. And
wow,
it was so intense. And so then when in the middle of grad school, my grandfather passes away. And I wasn't mad that he passed away. He was 90, he had cancer, it was time. But throughout my whole teen and early adult years, I didn't think that he had ever accepted Jesus. So I prayed for him all the time. I used to witness to him, thinking he has to accept Jesus before he passes away or he's going to go to hell. And I was so sure that there was going to be a miracle, right? I had all this hope that before he passes away, God's going to come in and intervene, and he's going to have an experience, and he's going to know Jesus before he dies. I was sure that was going to happen, and it didn't. And so after he passed away, I remember thinking okay, so he's in hell? And it just sort of broke something in my brain. I know when people talk about being in abusive relationships, the shelf breaking, that was sort of my shelf breaking moment of that's not okay. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that he would suffer for eternity. He was such a good man.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time I really questioned some of those big questions. And because I just thought, I don't think I believe he's in hell. But if I don't believe he's in hell, then hold on. Why do I believe any of this? What's happening? And so, at the time I'm so involved with a church. I'm there 3 times a week. And again, it's my whole life. And so I went through a year-ish long process of questioning, and it was sort of first I questioned hell, and then I tried to figure out, well, why do I believe in hell? And then I started saying, okay, let me really figure out why do I believe the Bible is true? And I remember I was sort of most of the way through my deconstruction, and I was teaching Sunday school for 5th grade girls. And that was it became a kind of an ethical quandary for me, but they had a curriculum. So I just followed the curriculum. But for anyone who knows fifth graders, they are smart and they ask really tough questions. And one of the last lessons I taught them, the curriculum was like, how do we know the Bible is true? And like that was what we were supposed to teach them. And what was crazy is the lesson itself didn't have a good answer.
I was waiting for you to tell me, God, what did they come up with?
Right? And, you know, it was like, and even the girls were saying, well, just because the Bible says it's true doesn't mean it's true. And I remember they like wrote on a piece of paper, this is true. And like, that doesn't mean this is true. And I was like, oh my God, I know. And, you know, it's one of those things where, like, to use a biblical metaphor, that your foundation is sand, because, you know, I know you all are familiar, but that, like, I just believed the Bible was true. And then everything came from that. But, like, why did I really believe the Bible is true? You know, like, how did I actually arrive there? And I realized that wasn't as solid as I thought it was. You know, it was just, I believed it was true. And that's, you know, and that was really hard. And so then I remember having this moment where it finally all ended. And I was walking into a bookstore, just a regular bookstore, looking for another book. Like I was like, I need a book, you know, I want someone to tell me how to figure this all out. And so I was going into the religion section. And so this is 2009. So this is a while ago, and there was almost no deconstruction content, like that didn't really exist back then. But there was this tiny section in the religion section that was about people leaving. And I picked up, I think it was a Dan Barker book, and I don't even remember the title, but it was something like Christian Pastor to Atheist. And in that moment, I didn't even read the book. Like, the content of the book wasn't even important, but just reading that title, it was like this weight lifted. And I thought, oh, I don't have to do this anymore. Like, I don't have to keep trying. Like, oh my God, none of this is real. And I just like sat down in the bookstore, like, oh my gosh, I don't believe this anymore. And like, from that moment, I haven't believed it. You know, it was like, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's exactly like that. You saw the man behind the curtain, and there's no unseeing that, you know? Hi, Matthew. Yeah, I didn't, I don't remember like a specific moment, you know. It was several things for me, but I do remember the time where I came to realize that I believed everything in the Bible. Like, I believed it. I know I cringe at it now. Like, I believed Job and Noah and Jonah.
Right. Yeah.
I believe Sarah had a baby.
Yep.
And when
Absolutely.
she was so old that, you know, she couldn't even walk anymore. I believed that. I believed they lived to be almost 1,000 years old, or whatever god awful number they came up with in the Bible. I believed all of that. And then I started to realize that a lot of Christians don't believe hardly anything that's in the Bible, but they're just like Christians out of fear or out of indoctrination or out of, I don't know. Like,
and that doesn't make any sense to me in a way, because I was raised that like the Bible is the perfect word of God. And so if one tiny part of it isn't true, then how can you trust that any of it's true?
That's exactly the thing. So I used to listen to Ken Ham. I feel like this is Confessions with Crystal today. I used to listen to Ken Ham, and Ken Ham said something that really helped me in my deconstruction. I'm not kidding you. He said that you have to believe in Genesis. You have to believe that it is true 100% because it is the foundation of the Christian religion. And if there is anything in Genesis that is not true, then there is a crack in the foundation. And therefore, there's no reason to believe anything else in the Bible. And I was like, God, he's so right. There is no reason to believe anything else in this Bible. And so I don't know if he knows that by saying that he's helping people deconstruct, but Ken, you're helping people. And we want to thank you for that. You know, y'all don't forget the guest box is open. If you have questions for Sarah, come on up. And don't forget over there on YouTube land, I see you, Ty, here, and Burns, and a few people are over there. Kevin, if you guys have questions for Sarah, you can ask them in the chat, and I'll be happy to read them out for you. Yeah, so I just, I do remember, I don't remember the day or anything, but I remember that I started to realize I don't believe in God anymore. But I was still kind of like doing things like I did, like maybe praying or whatever, right? And then I started to think that I kind of thought I was doing that either habitually or superstitiously.
Oh,
like I started to realize like this is just something I'm doing. I'm not really sure why. Like, but what happens if I just stop? Just stop. Like, am I suddenly going to become cursed? Is like all of a sudden our finances going to get worse? You know, or what's you know, yeah, what's going to happen if I just stop? And I did. I just stopped, and I was like, oh, nothing. I still have to pay the bills. I had to pay him before when there was a God in my life, and I still have to pay him now. I don't know. Nothing really changed. Hey, Charlie. Hey, Charlie. How are you today?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good. Do you have a question today?
Well, I kind of had my own story, or are we just doing questions?
Well, today is Decon Q&A with CrystalJae, and my guest is Leavingfaith.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I had just, I used to be in a monastery, and I actually became an atheist while in a monastery.
Oh, wow.
For 4 years, which was, I just suddenly realized that prayer couldn't possibly work because I had really bad arthritis, and there were people all over the world praying for me, like really high-end people to supposedly have a really close relationship with God, and nothing was getting better. But it hurt because I suddenly realized if there was no heaven or hell, then my deceased father doesn't exist anymore, and so I was like, I'm going to just go back to the way I used to feel, used to believe. But thankfully, my spiritual director and my mentor said, "Don't you dare! Don't go backwards. Even if you're going to go forward into atheism, don't go backwards because it'll be fake and you'll be miserable. Go forward in your truth. Find your truth. Find the truth. What believes in you." But yeah, but it just like the story is so. Your story is so. Fascinating in that it's very similar to what I went through, and it's really nice to know that other people went through the same thing in the same way, and I'm still working with it. That was like 10 years ago, and I had to leave that order. I still believe in God, but I don't believe in God in the same way. I just kind of believe that there's something there that I can't explain, and I'm not going to try to explain it. So I just kind of be like agnostic, but it about it, so because you can't prove it or can't disprove it, it's kind of hard to prove a negative anyway. But I still have that kind of trauma that I can't go to church, and it just feels weird. But it really felt weird being an atheist and still having to go down to prayer, kind of like how you were teaching and you suddenly stopped believing, but you kind of couldn't just stop teaching or something, because they'd be like, well, you can't just give up or you can't quit. And so, but it gave me that perspective. It gave me a perspective to kind of step back and just kind of see how silly some things are, and like what the value of some things, like prayer could be healthy. It's just like meditation. But yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to kind of edify and just say that, like, your story resonates. And it's really good to hear your story, because it's good to know that it wasn't just me, and I'm not just crazy, or that it only happened to me that way. Yes. Sorry that I'm trying to come up with a question. I think there's a question in there somewhere, but it got
I can
lost.
tell you too that, like, deconstructing within religion, or I know it's really common for people to deconstruct while in seminary, while getting their MDiv or whatever it is. So, even more specifically, you're not alone being in a very, very religious setting and deconstructing within that.
Yeah, but it was still interesting, because I wasn't going to tell anybody that I suddenly didn't believe in God anymore, because it's like, well, this is a new thing for me, so I don't know if I want to stick to it. But it did give me such a perspective on. It was kind of healthy to still be going down to prayer in the same way, but viewing it in a more objective way. And I could see the healthiness, like, of the monastic life. The schedule of it was very therapeutic, so that once you got used to the daily schedule, you didn't have to think what's coming next. You didn't have to, like, set your watch to anything. It just became part of you. You automatically just went towards it, and working for yourself and being self-sufficient and all that. But yeah, I was still hoping a question would pop up in my head, but sorry about that.
That's okay.
That's okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Charlie. I'm going to go ahead and drop you down,
Okay,
but thank you for sharing. We appreciate you.
Sure.
No, I think that your story does resonate with a lot of people, and I think that's why people really love tuning in to listen to you talk. I think that the way you respond to people, even when Christians are sometimes trying to be kind of mean or something in their comments to you, the way you will always respond to them with almost a thought-provoking response back or question back to them. And I think that's brilliant, and I love it. It makes me think. It really does. It's like, first of all, I am not like that. I'm trying to be a kinder, gentler atheist, and it's hard.
Oh,
I've been telling people, I keep forgetting to make it. I want to put a little sign like right above my phone. One, because Rabbi Hannah said to me the other day to remember to wait. Wait stands for why am I talking? So, before I go off on somebody. And then I don't remember, I was going to put something else up, but something to remind me that I used to be a Christian. So maybe I could be a little kinder to Christians. I am a nice lady, Ash. So yeah, I need to do that. And Joyful is teasing me because he's like, no, I know you're trying or whatever. Joel, on the other hand, does not appreciate my effort. He said, I saw you yelling at somebody just yesterday. I'm like, okay, but I was trying to not yell. Does that count? Like,
I was trying. Yes, it counts.
It just pushed me too far.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, I really appreciate, I appreciate the way you talk to people, for real. It's very genuine. it's always genuine. And you do show a grace that I do really truly want to start to embody more when I'm talking to people. I think that sometimes people go through stages in their deconstruction, and I think some of us use these debate spaces to let out a little of the anger that we feel about being duped our whole life, about being indoctrinated our whole life, and about being told the lies that we hear repeated back to us. And so yeah.
Well, and I think,
Aaron,
like, I've had, 15 years separated from when I deconstructed. And I think that makes such a big difference. Like, if TikTok had existed right when I deconstructed, my account probably would be completely different. So I have the privilege of time, and I'm not deconstructing in front of people in real time. So I think that makes a big difference.
That probably does make a big difference. I stopped believing a while ago, but I believe my deconstruction process began when I first saw like Joyful, Justin, and Skits online a year ago or whatever it was, a year and a half ago. So I think for me, that's when I really started to deconstruct it. Just because I didn't believe didn't mean I had done any of the deconstructing of what, like I said, I think that indoctrination affects you in several aspects of your life, and you got to deconstruct them all, Ani, can I get your age for TikTok purposes?
Hi, I'm 32.
All right. Did you have a question for Sarah today?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, just in general, like, what do you think is the best way if you're like, okay, I know I'm an atheist, I'm confident in that, I've heard the intellectual side, but you just have these emotions attached to Christianity. Did you ever, first of all, have struggles with that? And if so, or if not, what do you think is a good approach to move forward from that, if that makes sense?
So when you're saying emotions attached to Christianity, do you mean like you miss it and you kind of long for it, or do you mean you're angry with it and you don't want anything to do with it?
I would say sadness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I'm kind of pretty good now. Like I deconstructed. I started my deconstruction journey back in October of 2020, and then once I kind of like felt like I got all the arguments on both sides, and I was like, okay, I really think atheism is true here. And I found myself constantly chasing after apologists, trying to it was like me, like just hoping they could give me a drop of water to be like, come on, give me something to hold on to my faith here. I'm losing this. And having the arguments shuffle in my head like thousands and thousands of times of like, okay, I know prayer doesn't work now, and it was just like a slow process. And eventually, I think I've gotten way, way better. Like the past 2 years, 2 years ago, I was able to say, okay, I'm an atheist now, and not like freak out or panic. And I was like able to, it's gotten better. But I'm like, just for the audience sake, when you're just kind of in that middle ground of, you're like, man, I just have this strong emotional attachment to this. What are good ways to like move forward from that?
I mean, I definitely think you are experiencing grief. Like you have experienced a really big life-changing loss. And so I think you need to give yourself the time and the compassion that you would give yourself during a huge loss. Your entire world maybe has turned upside down. You've lost this incredibly important, relationship or perception that you had with God. You might be dealing with losing a whole community, and that's enormous. Like that's a really big deal. And so, yeah, of course you're feeling sad. It's such a sad thing to happen. So, I would say give yourself a lot of compassion, be really kind to yourself, and you don't need to beat yourself up when you're feeling sad about it. It's okay. It's even logical to feel sad about it, So yeah, give yourself a lot of kindness, take care of yourself, and slowly as you feel ready, start making new connections, start finding new things that bring you joy and purpose, trying to figure out like what is deeply important to me, like what do I find meaning in, what are my own core values, and that I think can be really healing.
Yeah.
But give yourself time. It's a huge thing. You need time.
Yeah, because like I think, and that's really good and a good reminder for me because like I had undiagnosed ADHD growing up through school, and it was like under Christianity, it's like, oh, just pray about it and it'll get solved. And it's like, okay, that I'm trying, and I'm like, I guess I'm not doing good enough because it's not working. And I have always had that issue of like comparing myself to others, and just like now, I'm like, okay. I don't want to compare myself to other people because like some people they just move on like nothing. I'm like, what did you do? Like I want to take notes, right? But it's like you're right. Like it's different for everyone. Everyone like figures things out in different ways. And it's like even like when I think of like grief, I remember the first time I grieved when I was an atheist. It was really hard. Like I can understand why some religious people they just say, I don't care. I'm going to force belief because it makes me feel good. Because in that moment, my reaction was like an ostrich. I don't know if ostriches actually do this, but maybe where you dig your head in the ground and I pray to God and hopefully, and then when I'd stick my head back up, if the problem's solved, oh, I guess God did it. And if it didn't, oh, I guess I just didn't have faith and blamed and sabotage myself over it. And so the last time I had a serious grief, as an atheist, it was like, at first it was really hard because I was like, dude, this is the worst because I know praying. I had this huge urge to pray. And I knew it was not going to work at all. And after allowing myself to just be frustrated and just like in such a big moment, I then, after like letting myself grieve, I was like, okay, let's start calculating what happened. How did I get into this state? How can I prevent stuff like this? And then all of a sudden, I was able to build off on top of that and be able to be like, okay, like we can figure this out. We don't need to have this myth belief to function, you know? So it's definitely a change of pace of things, but yeah. No.
Omni, do you have Discord?
Yeah, I'm in the Discord group.
Are you in the Deconstruction Junction Discord?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find there's a lot of people that can help during the grieving process. I think that the grieving is natural when, especially if you're somebody who made Christianity your whole religion, your whole personality, like I did. Like it was just who I was. And so you're not only you're grieving the loss of literally something you believe to be true, and you're realizing like this whole entire thing, it's not a little story, okay? It permeates everything, right? Is not true. But you also are grieving a friend, because I don't know about you, but I thought Jesus was my friend, your best friend, okay? Your father, because I thought God was my father, and but I'm also grieving eternal life, my eternal life, and the eternal life of others. One thing that really helped me during my deconstruction process is there was somebody who was online. It was a woman, but I just cannot remember who it was. But she was talking and she said, the minute she realized that nobody she loved was ever going to burn in hell for an eternity or suffer for an eternity, the minute she was okay with never having eternal life again. Because if giving up her eternal life also means nobody will ever suffer, then it's worth giving up your eternal life. And what are you going to do for an eternity? Yeah, right? And I love that. And it helped me so much because I had death anxiety. I've had it my whole life, even as a Christian. I had death anxiety.
Like, what if I'm not doing enough? How do I know if I'm believing? Oh my, I absolutely remember that. Yeah.
Yes, I had rapture anxiety, death anxiety, all that. And I still have some death anxiety. I'm not completely over it, but one thing I am over is thinking that the person that I loved is going to be tortured forever just because they didn't believe like I did.
No, I love that. And I always like to explain to like the cradle atheists that maybe they don't understand. It's like, imagine you've picked up a telephone your whole life, talking to someone on the other line, and then after 20, 30 years, you just now found out there was no one on the other line listening.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what it was like. It was just, you mean that was me the whole time? And it was just like, but I was doing so much work. I remember like I was praising this God for like sometimes 5, 6, 7 hours a week at church, thinking that, oh, this is improving my relationship with God, you know. And then you realize, you know, and you have to give yourself that grace of like, look, I did the best I could with the knowledge I had then. And can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're a little muffled, but yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, it was like I did the best with what I could with the knowledge I had. But I love what you said there. I'm gonna take that. It's like I sacrificed my eternal life to be annihilated so no one else has to suffer. Because I was always like, I would like, that was like always the worst, because I'm like, what about the people who are just genuinely not, who genuinely don't have a solid understanding of this? That just doesn't make any sense. And there was never that, you know, we never heard any of this middle ground that these apologists are now just spouting all over the place now, that you just don't hear in the typical church service. It's always like, you're either in or you're not. You are either with God or you're a complete enemy of God. And it's like, now it's like, so yeah, it's funny hearing these apologists trying to do all this tap dancing going on here. It's like, okay.
Yeah. You were talking about too how like you were like, oh, I was on the phone with somebody, but there was nobody really on the other line.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're a parent or not, but I'm a parent. I have 3 kids, and my son was the first one to come to me and tell me like that he didn't believe anymore.
Wow.
And I always tell people I must be very narcissistic, because my first thought was, oh my God, he thinks I talk to an imaginary friend. And I was like, oh my God, my own child thinks I talk to an imaginary friend. And I just like couldn't get past that. That's what my son would think of me. And I said, but God told me things for you. I had revelation for you. And he said, you know, Mom, I think that was stuff that came from you, but you give the credit to the God, and it was just you, Mom. You know, like you're smarter than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was like, whoa, like, wait, what? Like, I thought of all that, you know, so, but for me, yeah, instead of just being like, there's no friend on the other line, I'm also like, oh my God, my children think that I'm just losing it, you know? So it was a big part of my deconstruction, was him telling me that.
That's crazy. Did all your kids deconstruct, if you're comfortable sharing, did all your kids deconstruct? After they did. It was hard for... When he first came out as atheist, of course, his younger sisters were very scared that he was going to go to hell. And so that was really hard for them at first. But then I started to deconstruct too. And I never do anything quietly. Everybody in the house has to know what I'm going through. So when I would hear, like, as I've talked about before, the first people I saw on this app were Joyful Apostate, Skits and Bits, and Justin, Deconstruction Zone Justin. And when I first started hearing them talk and stuff, of course, I would be like, especially when Justin would drop like a bombshell on me. I already didn't believe in God anymore. I did not believe in the validity of the Bible, but I still didn't know that Jesus didn't fulfill not even one prophecy. Yeah. And when Justin said that, I was like, what are you talking about? This is wild, you know? And then he would say stuff like, oh, how did Judas unalive?
And I would be, what are you going to tell me about Judas, Justin? What? And then he would be like, yeah, in one story, it says that he unalived himself. In another story, he just unalives or whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that can't be true. How do I not know these things? And it would be one after another, one revelation after another. And so my kids would all, hear me talking about like, what? And then that made them question. My husband too. They were like, wait a minute. Everything that these people are telling you is actually true. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's
So
true.
when I first discovered Justin's live, I was already an atheist, and when he had this his sign, like Jesus didn't fulfill prophecy, not even one. In the back of my mind, I was like, okay, here's another edgy atheist. I was like, relax, dude. Like, I was literally like, I always prided myself that I knew a bit about the Bible, and I was like, this guy is he's just clickbaiting right now. I'm not buying it. And as I listened and I heard his points and I went through those verses, I was like, oh my God, he's right. I can't believe it. It freaked me out because I was already out at that time. And then this was just the absolute nail in the coffin for me. I was like, there's no way.
Right? It just blew me away. The prophecy thing blew me away, but then there would just like Joel recently. I don't know if you watched Joel Reed's Bible, but Joel recently. Okay, he recently asked me what made the slavery in the Bible okay with you when you were a Christian. And I'll ask both of you that question. What made the slavery okay with you when you were a Christian? And I had to think about that. And I realized that I don't have a clear memory of what specifically. All I know was when anything bothered me in the Bible, I ran and looked for my nearest apologist to tell me that it was okay, whatever they said in the Bible. So I'm very sure what I did was probably listen to an apologist tell me that it was bond servant or where they're working for pay, or to pay off a debt. So I don't remember, but for you, what was it that made that okay?
So yeah, I remember it clearly. I remember, so when I would see these when I first saw it, I was like, okay, like, wow, like what's going on here with this, right? And I was like, yeah, I did the same thing. I was like, okay, this bothers me right now on the surface. This doesn't seem right. So I go to my pastor, and my pastor would be like, oh, okay, like here's how we explain all this. Basically exactly what you said. It's not, slave isn't a good word. The Greek word for this or whatever is actually bondservant, or the Hebrew word. And, back then what they did was they had to, if they had a debt. And so the fact that he just sounded so confident, so assured, it didn't even matter what his points were. Just the fact that he sounded confident. I knew this guy. He's a nice guy. He wouldn't lie. He wouldn't be, I don't think he would be deceived or mistaken about this. I didn't even consider an option like that, because I was always told we've got the truth, and anyone else saying otherwise, to any small degree, Catholic or whatever, they're duped by Satan, or they just don't care, or whatever is what it was. And
what did
remember,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're good. You're good. And I remember, like, when I started to, as I got a lot older, when I first found out, like, the thing that really triggered me on my deconstruction was when I found out, like, the ending of Mark and the adulterous woman passages shouldn't be in the Bible. Because I was taught, like, this is the word of God. It's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Yeah.
If God doesn't change, his word doesn't change. No excuses, no complaints. It's not a history book. It's a God's word book. That's what that is. It's a word of God book. So we're not going to count it like a historical document. It's a word of God document, right? And when I was like you, Crystal, where I was like, okay, the minute something came up, I spoke up about it. I was like, what's going on here? But I also tried to make sure that if I'm talking to someone, to make sure they're engaged and want to engage with it, because I don't want to bring up a subject that people just don't want to engage with, right? And one of my friends, like when we were going back and forth on this, because like there was never a, oh, Omni, you're bringing up some good points here. Let's look at this together and investigate this and get to the bottom of this. It was always, let's talk about you, not the evidence or the book. Let's talk about you. And I'm like, well, I want to talk about does this not shock you? They don't want to talk about it. They want to talk about me.
No.
And it got to a point to where I said, look, I need to like look into this more. And one of my friends said, it's okay to ask questions, just only seek answers from people that conclude what we conclude.
Oh,
And
okay.
I didn't know.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah. Or another way. So I was in the Assemblies of God Protestants, and we prided on we always looked at the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Latter-day Saints as cults, right?
Yes.
I never knew how to like calculate or like look out for what cults are. But what I just said to you there, that's an example of information control. Imagine if a Jehovah's Witness, imagine if a Jehovah's Witness or a Latter-day Saints said to their followers that, hey, I'm questioning something, and they say, oh, it's okay to seek questions, just only look for answers from people that think what we think. It's like,
yes, absolutely. Right? Faze, I'll be right with you. Before we move on to Faze's question, Sarah, what did you tell yourself, if anything, about the slavery in the Bible?
Similar things, for sure. And I do think part of it was cognitive dissonance. Like I just kind of left it like, I don't know, this sounds bad, but I don't know what to do with it. And I remember I had a friend once tell me, like, I was pointing to some difficult things in the Bible. And I remember him saying, well, look, we have to start with the fact that we know God is good and go from there. Right? And so it's like, we have to read this with confirmation bias. And so the whole perspective was like, if you're reading the document and it seems like God is bad, you're wrong.
Okay. That makes so much sense. I've been reading this book all wrong. Right. Faze, did you have a question? Oh, first of all, Faze, can I get your age for TikTok purposes? You can come off mute. I will send you an invite. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Oh, Faze, you're too young to be up here.
Oh.
Yeah. You have to be 18 or over to be on TikTok live. I do have a question over from YouTube. Let me see. I have to find it. Where did it go? Okay. Leavingfaith, when you finally came to the end of that path, how did you step away from that support unit with some semblance that was going to be okay?
Ooh. Stepping away was so hard. And you know what's kind of wild is that I didn't tell a lot of people. So once I had that moment where I knew I didn't believe anymore, I just stopped teaching Sunday school. I was like, I can't do this. So I immediately stopped teaching Sunday school and I stopped helping with the youth group. Are you okay?
Oh, I think I have a little arthritis in this hand, and every once in a while I just move it weird, and it's like, ow. So that's all. Just aging. Just aging.
It's all of us. And then like I never sat down with my pastors and told them. I had one of the other like worship team leaders and I talked. And so, I had discussions with him, but it was all like, so he was the one who told me don't major in the minors when I had all these questions. And, I just kind of left and I was very lonely, it wasn't great. Like I did not have another support system. And honestly, that was a really, really difficult time in my life because I was in grad school at the time and I was working in this really competitive lab. And like the other students in the lab with me it was pretty cutthroat. And so I was very alone. And I couldn't stay in because it felt really wrong and unethical to me. Like it felt hypocritical. So I had to leave, but I don't know. I didn't have another support system, honestly, when I walked away. Like, and I think that's why people ask me all the time, like, why do you do this? And I think it's why I feel so passionate about what I do on TikTok, because it sucked so badly. I need people to not go through this, you know?
I cried like over a dozen times, like the first 2 or 3 years, like just crying out to God, like saying, God, I really need you to show up right now. Like this, oh, it was so bad. So were you like in the Bethel type of esque area?
Not physically. I did get into IHOP KC. So I was not physically in Kansas City. I connected with some of the people who were in IHOP.
Yeah.
But it always gave me a little pause. Like Mike Bickle in particular, I thought, and I remember, I don't know if you all know who Sean Bowles is.
No, I may have to like Google.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a whole thing. Maybe a story for another time, but he is literally a charlatan in what he does now. But at any rate, I kind of messaged with Sean Bowles, and I remember asking him some pointed questions about Mike Bickle, and then he got mad at me and we stopped messaging.
Oh, wow.
But I did listen to like Mike Bickle and some of his prophecies and thought maybe they were real. And then I heard him on some talk somewhere saying that, well, yeah, prophecy's correct about 60% of the time. And I was like, wait a minute.
What?
This is barely better than flipping a coin. And so then I pulled away.
Hey, my prophecy is pretty good too. Like, if you want a prophecy, come to me. Flip a coin, and I'll give you some info. Okay?
Yeah. So one of the things that I don't think this, as I look back on my journey, I don't think I had moments, like there was like times where I'd give prophetic words. Like this one time I said to this family, like, oh, I see I have this vision of you seeing your family, and God's got his hand underneath and there's a shield around it. And he immediately like spiked up and said, that's absolutely from God. Like 100%. I've had this fear of death. And he, like 5 years later, he gave a sermon about it. Like, that got me through a tough time and all this. And I was like, wow, or like, or I guess I'm hearing from God or so. And I remember the methodology that I did with that. And I would copy and paste that. And I did that with another time in a lady. I was at this other church and I was there with my girlfriend. And I was like, hey, I feel like God wants me to give this lady over here a prophecy. She's like, oh, go do it. And I go and say, oh, I think God's telling me this about your son. And she goes, son? No, I don't have a son. I don't think maybe that's not. And I was like, okay. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm not hearing from God. It was just like, huh. So I guess sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. So you just wing it every time? Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, there were moments like that where I was just like, am I just not like how do I do it? Am I just not hearing from God correctly? How do I do a status check kind of thing? And like what's going on here?
Right. Well, like every time the prophecy is wrong, it's your fault.
Yeah.
So not that it's God's fault. It's not that God's not talking to you. You just weren't listening right. And it's your fault if the prophecy's wrong.
Yeah.
Which is
and
funny
then later,
because the Bible says if a prophecy is wrong, it is he who has given the false prophecy to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember like later on learning from skeptics about how people can do cold readings and cold readings and warm readings, where warm reading is where you get someone or you investigate who the person is, maybe online, you find out what are their dreams, what are their hobbies, and then you give them a word or something like that. It can happen in the church, or psychics can do it as well. And you're like, oh, I think you have I see you having this dream or passion to do this. And the person's like, oh, wow. And you do that so that you can try to establish a connection, right? And then I didn't
Yeah,
realize
Mezzo does
how,
that.
what's that?
That's what Sean Bowles got caught doing. So he would have these events that people would buy tickets for, and they would have to like sign up with an email address or something to like get a ticket to his event. And he would like scroll everyone's social media, and then he would say, okay, I'm getting a word from God. Is there someone here who, works at a nail salon? Does the number 42 mean anything to you? Like that kind of stuff. And it was all from social media.
Oh, wow. So yeah. And on top of that, psychics, I've heard people who, there's this one psychic who was like, I can't remember who he was or why he was doing. I think he was like training people or whatever, or doing a test or something. And he had just a random group of people who he was like giving his like speech to, not selling them anything, just teaching them stuff. And then he's like, okay, we're going to do a test of cold readings. Everyone understands what it is, and just speak whatever comes to your mind, and then just, see how it goes. And then he said there was like an 86% success rate, that there was a receptive positivity. And I just think to myself, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like if someone's like, okay, I got this prophecy for you. And it's like, okay, you're trying your best to give a prophetic word within a range of positive things here. And the other person's trying their best to connect any dots they can to receive this.
Mezzo, do you watch Mezzo, Omni?
I'm a little bit.
Mezzo will do cold readings just to show people who say, like, he'll just do, and he's amazing at it. He's also a magician, so he'll do card tricks and stuff live too, to show people like that, that magic is just tricks.
My goodness.
It's not real,
When I first, and this is another thing too, when I was deconstructing, as I look back, when I first went to a magic trick show, even as a child, and I saw those tricks, my first reaction was, how are they doing that? And even though my family was saying that there's no such thing as magic, I was like, are you sure? Like, look what they're doing there. Like, I don't know if I believe you guys. And that made me realize how poorly my critical thinking skills were growing up, and all that. But it was like, it's funny, like, as I thought, I was like, wow, like, I understand.
Yeah. Hey, Erin, how are you today?
Hey, Crystal. Hi, Sarah. I have two questions. Since Crystal brought up Justin breaking our spirit, which he's done to me several times, so this has been a while back, but it's still like he broke this egg over my brain, and I still continue to scramble it. And I think you were even there, Crystal. We were in a live, and I asked Justin, I said, everyone I sat under were pastors who went to seminary. Some of them had their masters, some of them had PhDs. And why did they never learn that Noah's Ark wasn't real? And Justin replied to me, anybody who went to seminary knew that Noah's Ark was not real. And he went on to talk to me about apologists and how that's actually taught in seminary. And I loved my pastors growing up, and it still hurts my heart that knowing that they were taught how to lie to me. And Sarah, I was just wondering if that's something you had to come to terms with, and how did you come to terms with it?
That's a good question.
That's interesting. I've actually never thought of it that way. Like, I still perceived that my pastors were telling me what they believed, not that they were intentionally deceptive. It's interesting. The pastor that I had in the church where I was in grad school and deconstructing, he was not very intellectual. Like, he never referred to, the Greek or the Hebrew. He had a really hard time. Like when I would ask him questions, deep questions, you know, he would just like send me copy and pastes of Wikipedia. Like he just didn't like to intellectually discuss things. And so it was not surprising. Like I assumed he really did believe Noah's Ark was real because that was just the way that he presented himself. So I wonder, like for that guy in particular, you know, if they had that discussion in seminary, I wonder if he agreed with it. You know, like I wonder if he heard that in seminary and was like, no, I'm a really good Christian. I really believe this is true. I don't know what these yahoos are saying. I don't know, but I guess I never thought they were intentionally being deceptive.
Okay, and that's
Do you think
as well until Justin told me that anybody who goes to seminary they're taught how to keep us from thinking about that Noah's Ark could have never really happened. And it's hurtful to me because I loved the people in my church. I loved the people who taught me, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around that they were taught how to deceive me and they followed that path.
Yeah.
The other question I had for Sarah, and then I'll drop.
no, you're fine, Aaron.
I'm about 5 years into my deconstruction, and it's been it was such a slow process. But did you have a point when you stopped? Because it happened to me a couple weeks ago, where I still have moments when I'm like, okay, God, if you're really there, just show yourself to me, because I have like bad moments or moments where I feel desperate to still believe. Does that ever stop? You've been 15 years in. Will I ever stop doing that every so often?
I can tell you that I definitely have not prayed in a really long time. I think I have done that almost in like a internally sarcastic way, almost like, okay, well, I don't think you're there, but if you're there, like, you know, let's show up. But I can tell you though, like, I think when we go through really hard things, so I know this is a friendly audience, so I'll share a little more with you all than I do on my own lives, because it's not always a friendly audience. But like the last it's been 5 years of my personal life have been really, really difficult. It's kind of one terrible thing after another. And by, now this is year 5, and I definitely feel that sort of desperation for control. Like I want to be able to control what is happening to me in some way. And I was scrolling through TikTok and I came across like witchcraft TikTok, and they're like, here's this protection spell. And I was like, I don't believe in any of this, but I really want to do it just because I want to have some semblance of control, right, over the things that I can't control. And so I think it is a totally normal and human thing to still want proof, or to still wonder, or to still think maybe. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. My guess is with the Christian God, it will probably happen less and less until it doesn't happen much at all. But I also think it's really normal to do that.
Thank you. And I think I just want to give you props, because you were one of the first that I found on TikTok, and I was very alone in my deconstruction, living in West Virginia with a 93% Christian state. And finding TikTok really changed my life. And I'm so grateful for this community and people like you who are brave enough to tell your stories. So thank you to you, Sarah. And thank you to Crystal, the lovely host. I love you, lady.
I love you, Aaron. Thanks for coming up. And if you want, we're going to play Divine or Decline in a little bit. Join us, or you could stay up here if you want. That's fine too. Hey, Chet, how are you today?
Hi, Crystal. I'm doing well.
Good to
mow
see
my
you. I
yard.
haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
Did you
it's been
have
a while.
questions for Sarah?
I was actually going to respond to the last guest, the issue of the pastors lying and that sort of thing, because I think One thing to keep in mind is not everyone who's a pastor has went to seminary. I know the pastor in the church I grew up in only had like a Bible college 4-year degree, I'm pretty sure. And so you're going to come by pastors who actually just haven't went to seminary and had those conversations. And then I was going to say another thing is a lot of people, once they go through seminary and they work through a lot of those issues, they forget that so many people actually believe the Bible that literally. When everyone around you knows that sort of thing, I think sometimes they just think, sure, most people, they have to know that these are just stories, right? And that isn't really the point of what we're doing in church, so they don't bring them up. And again, I think there's just an extent to which they just don't think that it's as big of an issue as what it is, because when they were doing their degree in seminary, they're surrounded by people. I know, like, even for me, when I'm debating on TikTok, I'll be surprised sometimes that people take some things of the Bible so literally. And it shouldn't keep surprising me, but it does, because I've just been, working in it on an academic level for so long that it happens. So anyways, I just thought I'd throw that out there as maybe other possibilities to think about. But yeah, so good to see you, Crystal. Good to see you, Sarah.
So good to see you.
Yeah.
You too,
Thank
Chet.
you for coming up.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking about that too, because I was thinking how my pastor went to a friend's university. So could they have also just taught apologetics and not taught the truth of it, because it's a friend's university, it's not just any university. I'm sure that they taught it the way they wanted their pastors to teach it in church, and not
Right,
them all the
right, yeah.
information.
A lot of these Bible schools are denominational, and so they go with what the denomination says, and that's, like I said, I know, like the pastor in the church I grew up, that was kind of the situation with him. He taught young Earth creationism, and I know that is what he learned in school. So,
Well, at
Yeah.
that age
Yeah.
has a lot to do with it, in that, when, like, I grew up in church in the 90s and 2000s. And so my pastor probably went to seminary in the 70s. So what they learned in seminary in the 70s is probably really different from what they're learning in seminary in the 2010s,
yeah, could be.
Darth,
Think
that
that
happens to
because
people.
You were, I didn't know you were going to address my question, and I just wanted to thank you for addressing it. The pastor I sat under for the majority of my life actually had his doctorate from Liberty University. And when I had asked Justin this question, I had told him that. He's like, yeah, this guy definitely knew. And my family was my dad was a deacon. My parents, we were very close with the pastor's family. That's why it personally affected me so much, because I was so personally, and I mean, I was friends with his kids. And so that's why it feels so hurtful to me. But also, I guess I understand there is a level of being so brainwashed that you're okay picking up on these cues to deceive people if it's for the greater good, I guess. I don't know. It still hurts. And I
It
have
does.
huge
It does
resentments
happen.
over it. I have huge resentments. I can't walk into my parents' church. And this is a terrible thought, but I actually think about, because I know for a fact when my parents pass on, they are going to have funerals in that church. And I already have anxiety thinking about having to walk into that church when my parents have funerals. I know that's a really morbid thought, but that's just how deeply this kind of affects me, that I feel like I spent my life being deceived by this person.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess just to connect with that a little bit, in my experience, the pastor in the church I grew up with, he at a certain point kind of put together a youth ministry team of like young people that were, a little more advanced in the faith, if you will, to kind of do more of the ministry type stuff than simply, being ministered to by the adults. And he would do this thing where he'd tell everyone in the room, and I was part of this team, I was selected to be in the youth ministry team. And, everyone in the room, everyone's eyes is closed, nobody's looking. And then, if you feel that you want to give your heart to Christ, raise your hand, right? But secretly, all of the youth ministry, team kids, we're supposed to be looking. And the idea was then like we go up to them after. And I felt really uncomfortable with this because I was lying, right? He didn't say, that this was going to happen, that anyone was looking. And so I just, I was really uncomfortable with that. And I expressed it to him. And he just was like, no, this is good. It's just anything to get numbers, anything to,
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I ended up dropping out of it. This was quite a while before I completely deconstructed. But, even then I was just like, this is not the right way to do this. So, yeah, I get that,
And they do teach in the Jehovah Witness church. I wasn't a Jehovah Witness. I was an evangelical Methodist. But I have family who are Jehovah Witnesses, and they actually teach that it is okay to lie to people if it's for the greater good of bringing them. And I find Jehovah Witnesses now to be more honest with that than Christians, because at least they're being upfront about it.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah, I can kind of appreciate that because the people at my church would never say that, but they definitely believed it, the way they acted. So
Some of the
Yeah.
I'm able to recognize now the actual gaslighting that went on for me with the church. For instance, I remember one time I went with friends when I was a young adult to see a palm reader. And I felt so guilty for seeing a palm reader because I was taught that was something from Satan. And I went to the altar and I confessed that I went to see a palm reader. This sounds so crazy saying it out loud. So I went to the altar and confessed and was prayed for, and they cast any demons away from me that I invited into my life doing that. So about a year later, I was in a relationship with somebody who was abusive. And when I left that relationship, my pastor said to me, "You opened yourself up to that when you went to that palm reader." So that was the level of gaslighting I got from my pastor. And really, I mean, we had associate pastors and assistant pastors, and yeah, they were kind of all on the same page. So I guess looking back, and I mean, that's one example out of 100 of times where I was led to believe that just things like that. So yeah, I guess I'm dealing with the fact that I still believe that my parents were wholly brainwashed, especially my mother, and just doesn't know better. I don't know what I'll do when I get to the point where I realize my mom doesn't even believe some of this stuff is true, or if I will get to that point. But yeah, just knowing that the pastors I sat under, who I trusted wholly with everything they told me, just really were intentionally misleading me. It's hard.
Yeah, yeah, no, I found out later on, so there's this Unitarian that went to our church, and we all thought he was like deceived and going to go to hell. And later on, though, I talked to him. I didn't tell him I was like an atheist, but I was like talking to him about church history, and we would go back and forth. And I mentioned to him, yeah, did you know about like the ending of Mark and the adulterous woman passage? And he's like, oh yeah, I said that to our head pastor, and he just wanted me to be quiet about all this stuff and not mention this to all you guys. And I was just like, wow, like, so he knew about this, and he was trying to hide it from us because he wanted numbers, is what it was. It wasn't trying to like follow the spirit or let's trust God and all this. There was politics involved. I was like, wow.
Aaron, I didn't know that you were also Methodist. I was Methodist, but not evangelical. I was the boring, old-fashioned Methodist.
Yeah.
So
when you start, so in the early 80s, the evangelical Methodists, we broke away from the United Methodists because they started allowing women to be clergy. And that was the evangelical Methodist branched off and became their own denomination. I don't remember much about being part of the Methodist Church because I was like 5 and under the United Methodists, but the evangelical Methodists, we were tongue speaking, slain in the spirit, demon casting.
we didn't have none of that shit. We didn't do none of that shit.
Yeah,
You walked in, you sat
I
down.
grew up in the United Methodists because there wouldn't have been.
But what I wanted to tell you is they kept anything from the United Methodists. United Methodists do go to seminary, but usually, again, it's Wesleyan, it's Methodist, it's, like it's their own thing. So they might really have been taught that Noah's Ark was real, and they might really believe that. They might not have ever lied to you.
Yeah, and the pastor who is over my parents' church now is actually his son. So his son took over his church. But one of the about 5 years ago, like the last 6 months I was still showing up at church, he preached a whole sermon about creationism and rejecting evolution and rejecting Christians who I had become one of the Christians who was like, okay, I believe that God created the earth using evolution. But he did a whole sermon rejecting that idea. So I know that is still, now, I can't say that's exactly aligned with the denomination of evangelical Methodism, or if that's just the brand of this church, it might be.
Yeah.
Because I really wasn't exposed to, I would visit other churches in our denomination, but I'm not sure what goes on in the other EMC churches. I just know it's kind of a pyramid it's a pyramid scheme where I've seen, like, our church planted a whole bunch of other churches, and then they plant churches and you get money from planting churches. I know it kind of works like that. But yeah, I can kind of, when Crystal, you were talking about biases that we have and we don't even realize we have, and we have to admit we have. I have so many of those planted in me that I still, to this day, like, we were taught to feed the poor. Our church had a food pantry, but at the same time, I learned to look down on the poor. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was
No,
taught
it
to
does.
feed them, but I was taught to look down on them. And I am poor now, and I still struggle with that bias of sometimes my thinking is wrong when I look at people in poverty, and I hate myself for it, but I know where it stems from and what it stems from, and I know it's not my true heart. It's stuff that's stuck in my brain.
Yeah. I also talk about how the church often, their message to us believers was always very confusing in and of itself, because on one hand, you were taught, at least I was, that you are a child of God, a child of the Most High, so you are indeed royalty. And on the same token, I am wretched and I am worthless rags. It was very confusing to my brain to 1 minute feel superior to everybody, and then at the same time feel like I was just a piece of shit. So the message of the whole Bible is very clear. Like, if God ever wanted to give us a clear message and it was through this Bible, I don't get it. I don't know what it was.
Absolutely. One of the things I just constantly struggle with is the idea that I was always taught that I controlled, like, if I dressed a certain way, I was tempting the boys in my church and I was putting their souls at risk. But at the same time, I'm taught to submit to men, and I'm less than a man. And what I think doesn't matter as much as what a man thinks. And I'm like, wait, I have control over men when it comes to the way I dress, but when it comes to everything else, I'm not as important as men. Like, I still find that so conflicting. And that 100% affected the way I had relationships, the way I interacted with men my whole entire life. I kind of took that bad part for a while, where I'm like, well, I can dress sexy at work and my boss will take my ideas better. And honestly, it worked. It worked. I'm not
It's
proud.
true.
I'm not
It's true.
So
The
I
other
had
thing
this
is,
control over men, but I wasn't as important as men. And yeah,
right.
just one of the million mixed messages the church gave me.
Well, they also teach young women to, like, we're to be modest, we're to ignore any sexual desires we have, because we need to remain pure for marriage, for our husband one day. So absolutely suppress all of those feelings that are very natural for you to have as a young woman, and do not act upon them, and suppress them. Now you're married. You better be ready to give it up at a moment's notice. Who cares if you have a headache? Who cares what's going on with you right now? Be ready and be available.
Yeah, and if your husband strays, it's your fault because
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you were
Definitely.
satisfying him. Yeah, but I didn't. That's why I didn't want to stay up here because I yak and yak and yak, and then I take over the live, and so I need to clean my head every day. I'm going to drop down and be a listener now. Thank you,
Okay.
Sarah.
Thank you, Erin.
Thanks, Erin.
W in the chat for Erin. I love her so much. She's amazing. No, did you ever feel those? I don't even know what to call it, just other than those almost life contradictions where you are being taught to feel like you are a princess for the God Most High, and at the same time you're worthless.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, that was bread and butter. When I look through, I used to keep prayer journals, so I would pray every night before I went to bed, and I wrote it all down. And in high school, it was handwritten, and I look through those journals now, and honestly, 50% of it is me saying, I'm so sorry. Like, God, I'm so sorry. God, I'm so sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I didn't do this. I wasn't that. And I grew up with this idea that I just was messing up all the time, and I was deeply bad, and I was never good enough. And it comes with this really interesting kind of cycle of guilt, because you feel not good enough all the time, but also you're not supposed to feel guilty anymore, because you're supposed to trust that, Jesus has taken your burden, and Jesus says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So what are you doing feeling guilty all the time? Give it up to God.
Yeah.
And I remember on one of the international mission trips I took, one of my friends said she was praying and she got a word from God. And the word was that, like, God was comforting her when she, when she was feeling so, like, guilty and shameful. And the word from God was, my daughter, all I want you to do is dance. And well, okay, but that's actually beautiful, right? Like this.
Okay, it is.
She had
It
with
is.
her God, was that, no, you're my daughter. I just enjoy you for who you are. And I remember feeling like sad. And instead of making me feel good, it made me feel sad, because like, I don't feel that way in my relationship with God. I must be doing something wrong. And it was something I could never quite achieve, was this total peace with my relationship with God that I was supposed to have and somehow still couldn't manage to have.
No, I kind of laughed at the message because I just realized when we're out here talking to Christians, a lot of times they'll tell us that, oh, thank you, Chet. Thanks for coming up. You guys, if you're not following Chet, you should. He's amazing. Very knowledgeable, speaks Hebrew.
And I have to tell you, Crystal, yesterday Chet came on, and I know there's not too many people here, but if anyone's on my live, anytime someone gives me like the Elvis thing, I do an Elvis impression, and it's very terrible. And yesterday Chet gave me that big dinosaur, and so everyone said, you have to do a dinosaur impression. And so I did. I don't know if you are it was the best, Chet. A fan of Friends. If you've watched Friends, and where Ross does the impression of a dinosaur in front of his class, like, this is how I think this dinosaur would sound. And that is the impression that I did.
Okay, we need to hear it. You can't just tease us like that.
I will do it. Chet very kindly did the dinosaur thing. So to anyone listening who doesn't watch Friends, I'm sorry in advance. And okay, so this is so much more embarrassing than the Elvis. Okay, the impression is.
Yes, I love that so much. Oh my God, that was amazing. Thank you, Chet. I owe you, Chet. That was amazing. I love that.
Oh, so
Oh my
bad.
goodness. Carol says, I joined at an interesting moment.
I'm sorry, Carol.
You never know what's going to happen on Decon Q&A with CrystalJae, so you guys should be tuning in every time I go live with a guest. You don't know what's going to happen. You get dinosaur impersonations from Leavingfaith. Oh, yeah, I think that I tell people, and I don't know about you, because I kind of feel you are like, I was very into my religion. Don't get me wrong. I was, steadfast, I was bringing people to the Lord, but I still think that I had been deconstructing it all along without knowing that that's what I was doing, because I did have the questions. I just told you that what I did was I would run to apologists to Band-Aid the wound, if you will, So like, I remember questioning the Cain and Abel story. I remember thinking, I don't get it. Why the hell isn't Cain's? And I remember thinking, these stories really affected me psychologically, because would God just not like my offering because I'm just an artist? All I can do is draw. Is that not good enough for this God? Do I have, does it have to be blood with him? Because I can't do blood. I never could, so like, and I knew I didn't have to do sacrifices anymore, but I'm saying, what could I have been Cain? Could he have done that to me? Could he have rejected me the way he rejected Cain?
Or Esau. I mean,
yeah, or Esau. I hated that story
Esau.
too. I hated that story so much. And I hear people say, well, like, he just gave over his birthright or what have you. And I'm like, the dude was literally starving, and you want him to say no to soup. I think that a lot of times, especially with your siblings, you'll be like, fine, whatever, just give me the soup. I'm hungry, shut up. Like, you can't really take my birthright, but just give me some soup, I don't think that, I don't know. There were so many stories like that I remember being upset about and angry about. And I remember even thinking, why did they, because the way I was taught about Sarah and Hagar, they always made Hagar seem like she was a bad person when they would teach the story,
Well, poor Hagar.
Right? And she was just an abused slave. And I'm taught to feel like Sarah is some woman of God and Hagar isn't doing what she should do or whatever,
Sarah
And
sucked in that story. Sarah was the
she
worst.
sucked. She was the worst. And so I remember going through all these things, but then again, like I said, I just would listen. It got confusing as I got older when my own mentors would bring up the contradictions to me, because I had one mentor who was very much like, I know that you have a lot of Bible knowledge and you feel drawn to teaching, but you need to keep your mouth shut. You're a woman, type of thing,
Oh.
And then within 24 hours to have another male mentor come up to me and say, I know you're going to be told to keep your mouth shut, but that is not true. That's not what the Bible is saying. You should not keep your mouth shut. You should become a pastor. And that that was so confusing to me. Like, what
Of
do I
course
do with
it
that
was.
information?
Yeah, of course that was confusing. Oh my gosh.
What? Yeah, what are you supposed to do with it? It's your own mentors. And you're like, they're both biblically very knowledgeable men. And they're telling me two totally different messages. And I don't know, like, what I'm supposed to believe, you know?
Yeah.
I did not indeed become a pastor, though.
Girl,
I did lots of
almost
other
went to
things.
seminary. Like, I had applications in. I was going to go to seminary, so I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about it. And when I became a Quaker, you don't even have to go to seminary as a Quaker. A lot of them do, but you don't have to. In order to become a pastor, just two people have to be told by God that you should be a pastor. And then they bring it up at a meeting. Meetings happen after church, like once a month. Everybody from the church is invited to stay for meeting. And at meeting time, you can say, I think we should record Crystal. And then another person would say, yes, I think we should record Crystal. And then you get recorded, which I thought was some kind of like really serious thing, but it's literally like they write it down that you are now a pastor, and that's how it's recorded. I remember the first time they said there was this young youth couple, okay? And so he was an associate pastor, and then, his wife. And we already had a lead pastor. And at one of the meetings, Alda and the lead pastor's wife said, oh, Joni wants to be recorded. And I was like, she was a singer. So I thought... and I was like, why would we pay for that? Like, why doesn't she just like go record herself? Like, what does this have to do with us in the meeting? Like, I didn't know what the hell that meant. Yeah.
Sorry. What you were saying earlier was about, looking for answers and being sat. Wow. Okay, hang on. Domestic is being kind of intense in the comments.
Oh, yeah. What? No, I don't think so. What?
That person is very angry and says they hate Christians. And I said, they make me mad that I don't hate them. And that's...
Yeah, he's gone now.
Okay. Like, that's a lot. But that
was a lot.
Point, you can be really angry at someone's actions and be so angry and against their actions and not hate the person.
Yeah.
And I think that
absolutely
that commenter was having a really difficult time distinguishing those two things.
Right.
Yeah, he wanted to hate people for doing bad things. And I think you can hate the bad thing without hating the human behind it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said earlier, I'm trying to be less angry about it myself because, a lot of us, we're Christians. So hating them, what good does that do you?
Yeah.
I think then you're just projecting your own self-hate onto other people is what you're doing, really.
Yeah. I have lost it with people before. So I don't want to project this image that I'm always zen and perfectly empathetic and never lose it. It's not true. I do lose it sometimes. And it has never worked. Me losing it with someone has never convinced them that I am right and they are wrong. It's not effective. Again, we're human. We all do it. So it's part of being human, but it definitely is not effective if you're actually trying to change something.
That is a fact right there. It is not effective. Take it from me. It's never worked in all my 58 years of living. It's never worked. You guys, we are going to play Divine or Decline. If you are in the comments and you would like to come up and play, please put your request in now. Anybody can come up. We're going to play Divine or Decline. It is the classic game that I made up. So And everybody loves to hate it. Cam, I saw you in comments. You should come up. Who else there? Aaron, if you're still there, you should come up and play with us. Gotta see. I don't know a lot of the people, but Xana, if you're here, you should come up and play with us. Dr. Joe, are you here? You gonna come up and play with us? Etc. You want to play?
This makes me feel like I was such a bad Christian and I really didn't know the book as well as I thought I knew the book, but I'll still play.
Okay. All right. Listen, the game is hard on purpose because it's fun that way. Here's the thing. I'm going to read you guys a phrase. And if it is from the New American Standard Bible, then it's divine. I use the New American Standard Bible because it is copyright free. So that's why we do that. No issues with me using it. Also, if it is from the Quran, the Book of Mormon, or if I made it up, it's decline. If you guys subscribe to my channel, drop a divine or decline sticker in the comments. Divine is the halo D. Decline is the one with the horns facing backwards. And yeah, there's no points, so there's no winners or losers. We're all gonna lose.
Okay, so just to clarify, I say divine if I think it's from any of those holy books.
No, only
so
if it's from the Bible.
Got it.
Only if it's from the Bible. Any other book, it's declined because the Christians would decline it. So, all right, here we go.
With the exact same story and changing the words a little bit. That's not fair.
Well, you know I'm tricky. Grana, you
That's
know I'm
true,
tricky.
you are. In the best way.
Okay. All right, here we go. A feast is made for laughter and wine makes life merry, but money is the answer for everything. Grana.
Decline.
Aaron.
Decline.
Sarah. That is divine. That's Ecclesiastes 10:9.
No way.
I reject your version. That's the problem. My denomination would have rejected the version you're reading from.
Wow.
Okay, number 2. I know. I was shocked too, you guys, because now I can tell people, yeah, money will solve all my problems. Okay, quit telling me it doesn't solve my problems. The Bible says so. I'll read it again because people are having a little hard time with it. It says, a feast is made for laughter, and wine makes life merry, but money is the answer for everything. Ecclesiastes 10:19.
And I need to remember that. I want to whip that out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for instance, like, actually, when I think about it, money has done me more good things than God ever did. So I'm just saying. It's
Money is the
That's how
root
I
of all
feel
tacos.
about wine, Crystal. The wine has done more good for me than
that too. I like that they added the wine in with the money. Like, we're supposed to be, out there having a little, getting
Right,
a little
like you
tipsy.
can't use money to buy wine. That's why it's weird. It's like that doesn't even make sense.
Okay, number 2. Woe unto the what?
if Jesus is around, he will change the water to wine and we won't have to buy it.
True.
Oh, there we go.
That's true. That's true. Woe unto the man who gathers wealth in secret, for his silver shall testify against him in the day of heat. Grana.
Decline.
Aaron.
I'm going to decline that. I think it sounds like it's from the Quran.
All right. Sarah.
Decline as well.
Uh-oh, we all said the same thing.
That is decline. That was made up. Good job, everybody. Okay, number 3. The fool speaks many words, though no man knows what is coming, and who can tell him what will be after him? Grana.
I'm going to go with decline. I don't know, though.
Okay, Aaron.
I think that might be divine.
All right, Sarah.
I'm going to say divine as well.
Okay, that is, what did I even say to you guys? Did I say the fool speaks many words?
Yes.
Yeah,
you're
that was
talking.
divine. That's Ecclesiastes 10:14. That is divine.
Yay!
God, the way they translate Ecclesiastes is just weird in this version.
Okay, number
That's my
4.
excuse.
God will. Okay, that's a good excuse. It is a New American Standard is known to be a very crappy translation of the Bible. In case you all didn't know, it is, but it's free, so that we get
There we
what
go.
we
I actually wasn't
pay for.
allowed to read that version. Like, really, we were taught that version was, inspired by Satan or something.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's funny because my mom's Bible is right here, and it is the New American Standard. And she was a Methodist, but she was one of the original Methodists. She didn't become evangelical. Okay, let's see. So that was number 3. Number 4, God will say, "This day the truthful will benefit from their truthfulness." Grana,
Decline.
Aaron,
Decline.
Sarah.
Divine.
That is decline. That is Quran 5:119. Okay, number 5. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish, but will not even bring it back to his mouth.
What the hell does that even mean? I'm going decline just because it should be declined.
Aaron.
Oh, I mean, that sounds very like a gluttonous verse. I'm going to say divine.
All right, Sarah.
Divine.
That is divine. Proverbs 19:24.
I
don't know
still
why-
say that it shouldn't exist. So
I don't know why so many of my comments are being muted or whatever. Okay.
yeah, they just stopped coming through. Oh, there
I
we
know,
go.
it was really weird. I had to go approve every message for some reason. Number 6. Yea, and their riches did become slippery, and they could not hold them, neither could they retain them.
Decline.
Aaron.
Decline.
I'll
Sarah.
decline that.
Okay, that was declined. That's the Book of Mormon, Helaman 13:31. Helaman is a mayonnaise, isn't it? Like, what? I didn't know it was.
Being slippery. I mean,
I know, that's kind of weird.
It's the best.
It is the best mayonnaise, right? Okay, it's okay, number 7. A man who feeds on pride will starve for peace.
I'm
Granted.
gonna say divine.
All right, Aaron.
I'm going to say decline. And again, I think that sounds like it's out of the Quran, but I was wrong last time. But.
Okay. Sarah.
decline.
Okay, that is decline. That is made up.
Wow, that was really good.
That is from the prophecy of Ezekiel.
Yes, it is. Okay, number 8. Even in laughter, the heart may be in pain, and the end of joy may be grief. Grana.
Decline.
Aaron.
I'm going to say divine.
Sarah. You're the tiebreaker.
Ecclesiastical, so divine.
That is divine, but it's Proverbs 14:13.
Jesus.
So that's Proverbs.
I
All
probably
right,
heard it
number
in a different version, but boy, man, the Proverbs and the Ecclesiastics it's getting me here.
Okay, number 9. The path of wisdom is narrow, bordered by fire on one side and ruin on the other. Grana.
I'm going with decline. I just pretend they're all decline. Okay.
Hey, Aaron.
Decline.
Okay, Sarah.
Decline as well.
All right, that was Decline. I made that up.
Wow.
All right, and this is the 10th one, the final one. It's for all the marbles. Winner takes all. I don't even know like how we would do that, but okay, here we go. He that oppresseth the poor reproacheth his maker, but he that honoreth him is merciful to the needy. Grana.
I shall go with declineth on that one.
Okay, Aaron.
I'm going to say divine.
All right, Sarah.
Decline.
That was divine, Aaron. You got it right. That's
Super.
Proverbs
Aaron, you're amazing.
14:31.
Proverbs
And
was my
that's
favorite
today.
book.
Mine too. I like to use Proverbs and Ecclesiastes.
Psalms. I used to play Psalms bingo when I was feeling bad, where I just opened my Bible and read a Psalms, and I thought God was speaking to me.
Yes, I've done that.
Oh,
I've done that.
yes.
Or just any book, any verse in the Bible, and then you end up
Thank
with
you,
some
Charles.
weird thing, and you pretend it makes sense when it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sarah, when are you going live again?
Well, typically most evenings I probably won't go live again until Monday evening though. So Monday evening.
Okay, awesome. You guys, Sarah does deconstruction lives. Her lives are different than a lot of the lives that like Joyful and I do. Hi, Joyful. He just popped in right when I was going to say that. Her lives are more of an intimate conversation with Sarah where you can ask her questions in chat and she will answer your questions, talk about deconstructing, talk about the grief, talk about the process. It's a great, I think it's a great resource for people who are deconstructing. And so if you're not following Sarah, please do so now. Also, if you're not following me on YouTube, go do it for me. I need to get to 500 subscribers over on YouTube. The link is in my Bible, in my bio.
And besides, when you go to Sarah's picture, she has a really cute puppy there that you get to see. So her dog
She does. Charles, I am live at different times. If you're part of the Deconstruction Junction Discord, the little event calendar usually has my next lives posted in it because I work around all of the creators' schedules. So it depends on when they're available for me to go live. But I do go live every Monday and Thursday night with Joyful Apostate for Christian debates. And that starts at 4 p.m. Pacific time until whenever we go live till 8 or 9 o'clock Pacific time. My next live, though, is tonight. It's for subscribers only. And it's going to be called, and this is Tahir thought of this, Crystal's Elevation Station. I'm going to get elevated. You can come and join me, and we're just going to have a good time tonight. Yeah, Joyful gets tired early. Joyful's a bricklayer and a father of 3. Like, I would be exhausted just thinking of those words together.
That is,
yeah.
I'm so impressed.
That's awesome.
He is so good, too. He does amazing work, too. So tonight I'll be live for that. We also have next Friday, June 6th, I have Tahir and Earth Sanctuary or Garnet, and they'll be on Decon Q&A with CrystalJae at 12 p.m. I have some other guests coming up, but I haven't added them to the calendar yet. So just follow me, subscribe to my channels, and you'll get to meet all the best creators. We had Tommy J and Jada on yesterday. I have Dark Knight coming up, by the way. And I believe that Fox is going to do a show with me, and I'm hoping Quan will. So I have just a lot of great creators coming up. Make sure you're subscribing to me and join me tonight for Crystal's Elevation Station.
And don't forget, if you missed anyone, Crystal posts them in her on YouTube, so you can go back and watch the ones that you missed. With the interviews.
Absolutely. I also do Non-Believers Bible Study almost every Wednesday. No, my Bible study people will tell you that that's just a lie. I miss a lot of Wednesdays, but we're supposed to be live Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We're in Exodus. It's only taken us a year to get. It's only taken us a year to get here, but we're in Exodus. So if you want to, study the Bible more about the historicity, while we're in the Old Testament, we're looking up what rabbinical teachings are about the Old Testament, what the actual Hebrew says. Where did they get these stories? Was it from Babylon? Where was it from? Mesopotamia? So we're looking into these things instead of using Christian lenses to read the Bible. So join us on Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Sarah, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed getting to know you today. And I know that you were very kind and you let, a few people kind of take over the show for a little bit. And I really appreciate that. But I hope you'll join me again in the future. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was lovely.
Pleasure.
It was amazing. And Aaron and Grana, thank you for coming up and thank you for playing the games with us. Everybody in chat, thank you for the 30,000 likes. Thank you for getting me to 100 subbies. Yay! I'm so excited about that. And thank you for all the gifts and the shares. I really couldn't do what I do without you guys. You're all amazing and I love you. I will see you all around the mean streets of TikTok. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, YouTube. Have a great day.
Bye.